Good day to you one and all. It is I, Justin Hawkins, and this is Justin Hawkins Rides Again. Now, I just came back from Australia, and Australia and New Zealand actually. It was a long flight back, 10 hours and then 13 hours from Auckland to get back to Switzerland. During that time, I listened to a playlist of Scott Walker songs, which consisted of the whole of the first album, the whole of the second album, the whole of the third album, and then the whole of the fourth album. And it was the most rewarding in-flight experience I've had since this other time that I'm not going to talk about now. Justin Hawkins rides again. I've been wanting to talk about Scott Walker for quite a long time, but finally my producer has allowed me this opportunity. So the song that we're going to talk about is called Next. It's actually a cover of a song that Jacques Brel, the Belgian composer, made in the 60s, I guess. And it seems to be a pretty accurate translation, but it's weird how some of the rhymes still work, you know? I think there was actually quite a few songs that Scott Walker did that were translations of Jacques Brel songs. Those of you who are in the know and are familiar with Jacques Brel, I envy you. It's great stuff. Okay, so let's listen to Next. I think originally it was called Suivante. I was trying to find the Jacques Brel version. I came about it from the Scott Walker side and then wanted to go back in that direction. And I thought it was going to be prochaine, which I always understood to mean next. But I suppose that shows you that I don't know what I'm talking about a lot of the time. It's good to be wrong, though, isn't it? That's how you learn. Anyway, Next is from Scott 2. Scott Walker, by the way, was an American-British singer-songwriter, composer, record producer, and he lived in England. He was known for his emotive baritone voice and his unorthodox stylistic path, which took him from being a teen pop icon in the 60s to an avant-garde musician in the 21st century. His success was largely in the UK, where his first 4 solo albums reached the top 10. He rose to fame in the mid-60s as frontman of the pop music trio, the Walker Brothers. Oh yeah, of course he did. Scott's 60s recordings were highly regarded by the 80s UK underground music scene. He gained a cult following. He was described by the BBC upon his death as one of the most enigmatic and influential figures in rock history. So there you go, that's Scott Walker. Jacques Brel, who wrote this particular song, he was a Belgian singer and actor who composed and performed literate and theatrical songs that generated a large devoted following. He is considered a master of the modern chanson, which is generally it's any lyric-driven French song. I just thought it meant song. A lot of the time I'm saying, when I perform in France, I try and speak French to the audience, and I sometimes say things like, le prochaine chanson, c'est l'amour sur le rocher sans glaçons, or, you know, that sort of thing. But turns out chanson is a very specific type of French song. Although he recorded most of his songs in French and occasionally in Dutch, he became an influence on English-speaking songwriters and performers. English translations of his songs were recorded by many performers, including Bowie, Scott Walker, of course, Ray Charles, Nina Simone, Shirley Bassey, and Frank Sinatra. I love all of those artists. Who doesn't?
Somehow knees turning to jelly. Next. I was still just a kid.
So this incident that I'm gonna say Scott Walker's describing. This is a Jacques Brel song, but Scott Walker's describing, I think, losing his virginity or his innocence, as they used to put it, in a facility that was provided by the army. I don't know why they would do that. For morale, perhaps? I don't know. But it backfires massively. And so this lyric sort of spirals into like a hallucinatory despair. It's really cool where it goes. And when I first listened to this song, I just thought, nobody's writing songs like this anymore. There's people who sort of touch on it in terms of the aesthetic, you know, like I think I would even say like the new Arctic Monkeys stuff that I've been talking about recently. That sort of puts me in mind of this universe. But I think the lyrics of the Arctic Monkey stuff is much more vague. I mean, at one point in this Scott Walker song, he even mentions a particular sexually transmitted disease, and he names it, which I'm led to believe is what a lot of French chansons do. They're always talking about, you know, STD or ST. Is it STIs? STIs. Yeah. They just love it, don't they? No, they don't.
Oh, it wasn't so tragic. The high heavens didn't fall, but how much at that time I hated being there at all. Next!
So he's traumatized by the experience because I think he anticipated something more romantic when he finally sort of entered that particular phase of adulthood. But it doesn't sound like it was romantic at all. It's like this whole thing is called Next, and it's like that's the refrain is just like next, and he says it at the end of nearly every line, and he starts to hear it in the voices of his lovers, and he's tormented by it at night. It's funny in a way, isn't it? But as my producer correctly pointed out yesterday, there's two different kinds of humour in music. There's the kind that deceives and provides a sort of comedic smokescreen so that you don't actually have to deal with your emotions, or there's the kind that reveals, and I feel like this is the kind that reveals.
I swear on the wet head!
This is a great line. I swear on the wet head. And you think he's going to say of his firstborn child or something like that, but he says, I swear on the wet head of my first case of gonorrhea. It's beautiful.
Of my first case of gonorrhea!
And I love the way it's first, because it implies that there are others.
It's his ugly voice that I forever hear. The next.
This is what happens when Scott Walker opens up another cylinder of his vocal engine. He goes up a gear, and then that's when the lyric starts dealing with some real torment.
That voice that stinks of corpses.
Stinks of corpses.
Seems to laugh in my arms and a whisper through my head.
Next. I love it when he does that. Next. This is him sort of doing an impressionistic vocal delivery that's supposed to simulate a sated lover laying beside him. Next. But then it gets really weird.
All the naked and the dead.
All the naked and the dead should hold each other's hands and watch me scream at night in a dream no one understands. Or no one can understand.
Should hold each other's hands as they watch me scream at night in a dream no one can understand.
The naked and the dead. It's interesting that he's lumped these two groups of people in one, isn't it? He's really started to associate his demise with his coming of age.
Next, and when I'm not.
Maybe it's because his virginity was lost in a battlefield, in a way.
In a voice grown dry and hollow, I stand on endless naked lines of the following and the followed. Next.
Here's my favourite part. This is the last verse. He says, one day I'll cut my legs off and burn myself alive. And these are the lengths that he's prepared to go to avoid being in that queue or having the memory of being in that queue, or even the word next, it seems to be a trigger for him.
Oh, never to be next, next.
Never to be next. Yeah, I always expect him to do a third next, but just never to be next. And then it just ends. So, the reason why I wanted to talk about this song is because who the fuck is writing songs this good in this day and age? Anybody? Please use the comment section below to educate me. I haven't heard... This is one of the reasons why I can get a little bit old man shouting at a cloud, because I just don't think anybody's doing anything that's this powerful. It's really amazing, because it's an anecdote about losing your virginity, and then the torment of adulthood. And all that stuff is in there, and it's like, I just think it's one of those lyrics that is unsurpassed by anything from the last 20 years. Unless, you guys are aware of something that I'm not, please educate me. I'm desperate to be wrong, because I feel like this is a high watermark that we may not have reached for a while. What do you guys think? I mean, listen to Scott Walker. I'll actually make my playlist public, but it really isn't a curated playlist. It's just the first 4 records. Yeah, what do I do here? No, it's already public. So if you have a look in the description. There's you'll find a link to it. It's all amazing stuff. I mean, some of it is Jack Brel songs, some of it isn't, but it's 4 albums of really solid songwriting, and I hope you enjoy it. Please let me know what you think, and again, tell me if somebody's doing it better. Justin Hawkins rides again. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and watch one of these 2 videos. Next!